Alright, this video is pre-recorded. I'm not doing it live, but I'm taking a video from the Hobby Lobby parking lot. It's closed on Sundays, so hanging out here all day is a quiet experience. Now, I got some thoughts here I wanted to share on video and to think about a little bit more as I talk about them. That helps me think. Goes from the mouth to the ears. I have some thoughts about my criminal trial I want to share with everybody. So they're not exactly new thoughts. I just keep thinking about it and over, and I think about these things in different ways, especially coming up on new information. I'm watching videos like the Law Talk with Mike channel and other criminal channels, particularly just court cases. I try to watch Blind Justice. It's not exactly easy. It's all audio and very long. And the last time I watched one in more in depth, I was just yelling for help, somebody help me, for like 20 minutes. That was during like his arrest. I didn't know if I should have fast forwarded, but I guess I should have. It was whatever. So there's some ideas here. Now, I've said the ID law is more of a toy than a tool for cops. They use it as a toy against me. Can I see this ID? Want to show me your ID? It's such a toy that a lot of the cops seem to use on me, and it's very annoying because it's happened so many times. Let's see, the toy stops, the game stops being fun of me just, oh, let's find my ID. Where's my ID? Let me find it for you, officer. And I'll try not, and I don't think about, I want to look for it fast. I wasn't thinking about how dangerous it could appear to them. As I'm like, it's here somewhere. Let me go find it. Let me find my ID for you quick, buddy. And that's the game. That's the toy. That's the game. Find your ball. Where's your ball? Go find your ball. And then I had one time in Rice Lake, Wisconsin. I owned a house, and some neighbors, they like moved out for a short time, and let some kids move in, and there was some trouble happening at that house during that time. And the kids had a fight across on the other side of my house at a car wash, and cops thought that these kids came from my house, so they stopped to talk to me and asked me for my ID at my house. I'm like, let me go get it for you, buddy. And I got it and gave it to the cop, and then he was like, oops, and drops it on the ground. So I just instantly go down and pick it up and then hand it to him again, and he gives me this, this dead serious look, like I did something wrong. Like, that's the game, that's the toy. I go, ah! Oh, jeez. It's a wasp. That was a wasp. And I actually hit it with the camera. I don't want to hit it with my bare hand. Okay, I dropped my empty. Okay, so I want to keep the hats nearby these wasps. It's a warm one today. So yeah, that's the game they play with the IDs. It's like, go find your ball. Where's your ball? Boy, where's your ball, Fido? Go find your ball and give it to me, so then I can go throw it and make you go fetch it again. It's a game. It's a toy. It's really annoying. I've had enough of the ID games, as a pedestrian at least, because to me it's just a driver's license. And yes, I'm willing to prove I'm a good driver, that I have a clean record. But for just playing games, I don't like it. I'm tired of it. let's see. Oh, these are strange ideas. I wrote on my notes, just my tablet, my broken tablet that I dropped straight up on the glass face. It's all cracked. It's maybe not show on the camera so easy. Become a cop so you can legally fire off rounds in the city. All right. I swear half the rounds were fired by cops that I've been hearing for the past few months while in the city. I hear them from Walmart, I hear them from the courthouse, from the library, and usually at night. And it's almost every night. And I believe that the cops might be taking part in it. It's not entirely cops, it's not entirely criminals. I think there's a little back and forth. There might be a little competition going on between the criminals and the cops on see if you can find where the shots are coming from, and they test each other. Let's see. Did I fail to give my ID? No, this is a question. This is a thought that comes up a little bit, a couple times in my thought process. I'm like, it comes down to Judge Owsley thinking, did I fail to give my ID? And if you look at the construct of the time limit and how many times they asked, before, did I fail to give my ID before the arrest? Yeah. I mean, that's a fact. You look at it that way. The cops were in such a rush that they were able to shorten the time frame for me to give them an ID, and we're able to secure that failure in a short amount of time. All right. Now, is that reasonable? Is that a rational act? I mean, I believe the cops rushed to arrest because I was recording them, and they didn't want to look like the fools they are on camera as for too long. They wanted to just get out of my 3 cameras view with this back and forth stuff, because they know I would have published it if we kept on going back and forth, and then all their friends would have seen how foolish they looked going back and forth with me about the crime and me being there and all this stuff. So instead, they just rushed to the arrest. I think that makes them look worse, but at least they didn't spend as much time on camera. They wanted to look cool, like they were the movie stars. They wanted to look cool on camera when the camera's pointed at them, because when they point the camera at you, then it's not as exigent of a circumstance, it's not as much of a concern when you're pointing the camera at somebody. The cameraman doesn't get the attention anxiety that the person that the camera is being pointed at gets. But then, yeah, in the time frame, if you look at that fact, within the 2 minutes that we were interacting, yeah, I guess I did fail to give ID. That was the short time frame, but I mean, you gotta look at the circumstances a little bit better than that. You gotta think, is that? Then you'd have to ask, is the explanation the cops gave and the amount of time that they spent reasonable? It turns into that. That's what the prosecutor wants to discuss in greater detail. They want to prove that there was enough time, and this is something the prosecutor will say. In fact, the prosecutor will say the cops were more than generous with their time and their patience, because that's what prosecutors, how they argue. They'll say the cops were more than patient and gave more than enough opportunities to fish out an ID from a common person using a library in a common way. The cops were more than patient, more than generous. So I think about that, this is stuff that people think about after they're convicted, while they sit in jail, spend all day sitting in jail thinking about the situation. I'm thinking about it pre-trial. All right, that's just what the law wants you to do. Either you can think about it before the trial as a defense, or after the trial as after the conviction. What went wrong? What could I have done better? Is the Criminal Code of Procedure 18.1 constitutional? Because obviously Judge Owsley is not going to step back from, and he stepped back from some rulings, but I don't think he's going to step back from the fact that Louisiana revised statutes 14108 is constitutional. He says it's constitutional. Failure to ID law is constitutional. They can arrest me on reasonable suspicion. They can detain me on reasonable suspicion, then get the arrest over my ID, and then go through with the charges, confident, marching forward in the courts, confident that they're gonna prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Even they're so confident, and I'm still stuck with reasonable suspicion on that matter. But you question, you don't. The Judge Owsley says that one is constitutional, one law is constitutional. Well, there's also other laws to think about. Are they constitutional as well? Like our Fourth Amendment rights, Louisiana Article 1, Section 5, which is the Fourth Amendment again, and whether the cops have to read you your rights. But a lot of times these read you your rights thing, it's not like the cops only have a 5. These timing issues are something else. Like with my pre-motions, it's like, wow, my pre-trial motions are premature. It's my timing is too soon, and then it's too late. And it's just like with reading your Miranda rights, or it's in the Louisiana Constitution as well. Reading those rights. How long does a cop have after they arrest you to read you your rights? All right, what's a reasonable amount of time? If everything is all like settled down, you're just kind of sitting around. Well, the cops, what's more important? What steps are more important? Go get the witness's testimony first, or read the rights, or you get there's different. There's no perfect environment to read the rights in, because I've seen cops read the rights in the back of the police car, or in an investigation room. Read you your rights in a lot of different environments. The certain conditions have to be met first. You have to be arrested. You have to be they have to be in control of you before they can read you your rights. You get more rights after you learn what your rights are after they take away your rights. After they take away your freedom, they read you what your rights are. But how long do they have to do that? It could be seconds, it could be minutes, hours. Would an hour be too long? Cops can get testimony from you before they read you your rights, but you think after you are arrested, if they're going to try if they make little efforts questioning you, if they ask you any questions having to do with what they want to charge you with, if they ask you any questions with what they want to charge you with after they arrest you, well, then that looks bad on them. They have to like pretty much stop any interviewing, any questioning after they arrest you, because that looks bad. Okay, so it's whatever the timing is. some cops want to just wait till they get to a better environment, like have you chained up to the bench inside a jail cell, and then sit for an hour, and then they'll read you your rights, or some will do it right in the back of the car. Now, when you're in handcuffs, sitting there, and the cops want to just question you on the street. It's there's a wide latitude to how that's conducted, but it's like there's certain conditions. They just can't ask you. They shouldn't be asking you questions after you're arrested until your rights are read. But I don't think there's a timer that's set. It kind of is set. There's like a very loose timer that's set after you're arrested about getting your rights read. Some cops will want to wear you down a little bit, I think. Not ask you any questions for an hour like these cops did. I think it's very unethical. Wear you down, make you sit in that jail cell and start wishing for freedom and almost doing anything to try to get that freedom, make those cops happy. So, what laws are constitutional? I would say Judge Owsley probably wouldn't think any of the laws are unconstitutional. He says the criminal charge is a constitutional charge, but you have to be arrested. You have to have reasonable suspicion before you get arrested, and then you have to think about your Fourth Amendment rights, right to be secure. The right to be secure is also constitutional as well. So to discuss that in court, that's something I failed to do. All right, I didn't pick up on it. Now I do. Now I could see that as an argument. I didn't before. If it ever comes up in a discussion again, I definitely want to. If I ever hear Judge Owsley say 14108 is constitutional, then my response will be, well, the other statutes, the protective statutes, are also constitutional, and they also have some bearing in this criminal case too. Making that clear. I didn't really think about that. I hear him say that. Oh, I don't know. I don't see this as being unconstitutional, and I'm just like, it's interesting. I don't know what to think of that at the time, but now I do. And it's nice to get that kind of training. Although I feel like I'm swallowing my stomach down because of the stress. It's a little bit better now, but it's picking up. The stress is picking up again as I have another hearing coming up. But all of these Louisiana laws are constitutional, and I want to broaden the I want to make more broad the perspective on laws that apply to my arrest. I want to broaden that perspective. All right, I don't want to narrow it to just the charge 14108. I don't want that narrow perspective. I want to broaden it, because that's the charging law, and there's also protection laws that apply too, and we cannot shut those out. All right, they must be discussed. This is court, and judges don't quite take everything in as a factor. You have to fight your side. Prosecutors definitely not going to bring up the protection laws. That's not. They may not even know them. They're like, what's this stuff? Protection laws? That's none of my business. I'm here charging. That protection law stuff's for the defense. Just like, well, sometimes I guess in football or something, you got to remember, defense memorizes their plays, offense gets familiar with their plays. All right, I forget all the states exactly. Everyone in the Fifth Circuit court area, we're all in this together. The Fifth Circuit covers at least Texas and Louisiana. I think maybe Arkansas and the one to the right, Alabama or something. And there's a few states, and it's not just a Louisiana law where it's not just Louisiana, a Louisiana exclusive court issue here. I think this goes maybe to the Supreme Court, after I'm gonna have to probably appeal, and this is a learning process. We'll just continue. We'll continue the learning process after Owsley finds me guilty. But the Louisiana Supreme Court, and then the Fifth Circuit's. We're talking Fifth Circuit. I think it's that's how many years you can judge. The Fifth Circuit has given an idea of how long it'll be before they hear your case. Fifth Circuit, the 5-year circuits. But there's like a 6th and 7th circuit, so that might not be so true. My arrest is constitutional because getting a call for service and matching a description are reasonable suspicion of a crime. See, that's just amazing. It comes down to the idea of my ID, but there's other things to think about why they were asking for my ID, the cops clearly said it's because I matched the description and they got a call for service. And then you break that down into why was the call made? Because I was acting weird walking around the library. In the original 911 call, which got translated, I'd love to see the police dispatches translator books, how they turn weird into suspicious, how they turn walking around a library to casing the joint. Casing the place is Terry v. Ohio language, and see they turn a call into a tip, and they turn walking around into casing. All right, that's the interpretation that's made at the dispatch. And a green sweater, it's a military jacket. So a call is a tip, they got a really good information that a drug deal is going down or something serious. I've been getting watched, and it's somebody who knows me, and then the cops set up a sting operation watching me for a day. Nope, it's just I just walk into a library. Librarians probably think I look like I have an arrest warrant, just like the guy the day before, and call the cops, and then figure maybe they could get a little bit of that tasty chicken that the cops are delivering with the Crime Stopper program. And that's the thing with Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers is taking advantage of the Stop and ID state. So let's call it Crime Stop and ID program. All right. Guess who's pushing for the Stop and ID? The Stop and ID activities, Crime Stoppers. Because I was in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, and the cop who stopped at my car in the swimming pool parking lot, she said that Crime Alert was called on me, which sent the cops running to my car. Crime Alerts, that's different from Crime Stoppers. And I can find Crime Stoppers on the internet, not Crime Alert. And I'm thinking Crime Stoppers is just taking advantage of the Stop and ID states, the Stop and ID issues, and people love it when they're getting paid up to $2,000 for tips. It's a lottery. Get out there in the town and hope a crime happens so you can report it and make some of that easy money. That's Crime Stoppers. And it's because Louisiana has increased the sensitivity to crimes. It's practically now that the cops can push for hunches now. That's the next step back. Crime Stoppers encourages people to call on suspicion, all right? But they don't explain suspicion, and even the cops at the police station are very sensitive about what suspicion means, because Lieutenant Williams tells me it's a tapping of a foot. You got a nervous foot that you're tapping. Oh, better call Crime Stoppers. Somebody's acting suspicious. And especially if it's somebody you don't know, that you're not friends with. All right? You could discriminate between who your enemies are and really make them suffer by calling them in as suspicious with a weird activity. They were tapping their foot. That's a general suspicion that they have no problem. Nothing has changed since my arrest. They're still saying on Facebook, if you see a suspicion, call it in. And they're staying at that sales pitch. They're keeping that sales pitch, and really that sales pitch needs to change. I don't think I saved it. If you see a reasonable, if you're so then maybe they don't want to insult people. They're saying you got to be reasonable about this. See, people don't even understand reasonable. I found out what reasonable was at about age 24, when I was trying to evict somebody from my house. I owned a house for a brief time, and I had to take this person to court, and the judge talked about reasonable, Judge Eaton. And I was like, reasonable? All right, I'll have to look into that one. That was like in 2001, 2002. Yeah, I mean, I learned about being learned about, in college, I learned not deterrence, deviance. I took a class a sociology class on deviance, acting outside the norm of the culture, doing things a little different, being deviant. I always thought of deviant as a criminal in nature, but it's doing things different. And it makes sense to me as a military person, because I got trained to kill people, and in the civilian world, that's not encouraged. You got all that training on the guns and the killing. It doesn't apply to the civilian world. So there's a change in perspective there. There's some situations where it's encouraged and some it's discouraged. Like I wouldn't go to jail for killing the enemy if there's a war, but in the civilian world, if I have an enemy, it's not allowed. But what was I saying? Constitutional arrests. I think, yeah, I got off track a little bit. 1,000 general suspicions do not add up to one criminal suspicion, just like 1,000 misdemeanors do not add up to a single felony. All right, you could have 1,000 misdemeanors and not a single felony. All right, and that's the same with general suspicion. It doesn't add up to criminal suspicion. Misdemeanors, you can't add them, you can't multiply them to add up to that higher level. That higher level is a higher level as a separate level. All right, they don't add up to collectively a bigger charge. You got to actually make that charge separately. It's simple. It's math. It's algebra. And I was thinking about that. I thought about this 1,000 general suspicions a few weeks ago, but I'm like, also 1,000 misdemeanors don't add up to a felony. And there's probably other things to think about. So that's just something I just recently thought. All right. police are supposed to understand we have some privacy rights. All right. It didn't look like that at the library when I got arrested. I had absolutely no privacy rights. They don't respect my privacy, and there's that barrier, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about my constitutional protections. I'm living in that barrier, within the barrier, and it just gets jacked up. It gets ran over, and it's very frustrating to deal with that kind of behavior on day shift. Cops running around like wild animals on day shift. This isn't the first city I've had to deal with that. Likely not going to be the last, but it needs to be called out for what it is, what's going on. The day shift is a political time where the most people are usually out and about in the city doing business. They're at their most alert. People are at their more people are at their least alert states at night. So the cops get noticed by more people during interactions. But I mean, there was only 2 people at the library, and that's what the librarian said. And one of those people you could see standing in the background during my arrest, and the cops aren't calling that person as a witness. But 2 people in the library, and that guy was a witness. Whoever he was, I mean, he was far away, and it's hard to make out exactly who he is. I don't recognize, in my couple of months here at the library, I don't see him reappear. All right, I don't recognize him. But he would be somebody I'd like to call in as a witness to maybe talk about the volume of our conversation. But he's out of it. He was on camera, and that's the last we see of him. The cop said something to him, but they turned their body cameras off before they talked to him. Especially Miller. Miller was quick to turn his body camera off. Let's see. If there are facts that are in dispute, then it's a right to have a hearing. See, I find it interesting how this is the first time that we're going into a trial. This is the first time I've really going into a trial, and the first time I'm going forward also with like no real idea of facts that my prosecutor wants to debate. He wants to make this the Perry Mason moments. That's his. I think that's been his whole style this whole time, is just to surprise people with evidence, surprise people by being quiet and secretive about what he's doing, and then try to draw